Snapchat is an app used by millions of people to share images and photos in a fleeting nature, and while for the most part it's used in a very innocent context, every once in a while the information it receives can be used to solve a murder, which is what we'll be discussing today. In this day and age, we're more connected to technology than ever before. The vast majority of people have a phone on hand at all times that keeps them in constant contact with the entire world. Some people understandably see this as a bad thing, as it seems to strip away any sense of privacy we may have had left. But in other cases, this constant connectivity to everyone may prove useful, especially when it comes to solving crimes. This appeared to be the case in the small town of Delphi, Indiana, with a community of only around 3,000 people. It's the kind of place where everybody knows everybody and where news and rumors travel fast. In a place like Delphi, not much tends to happen of any real note. It's for that reason why the disappearance of two girls on one February afternoon took not just Delphi, but the entire country by storm. In this quaint town, there were two girls by the names of Abby Williams and Libby German, 14 and 13 years of age respectively. By all accounts, they were good friends. They attended the same school, they were on the same volleyball team, they both played the saxophone. According to the girls' families, the two made a good pair, with Libby being more energetic and outgoing as a counterpoint to Abby's more shy and reserved demeanor. On February 13th, 2017, the girls decided to go on a hike together on the nearby Monon High Bridge Trail. They were dropped off at around 1:30 p.m. and set off into the wooded path. The two of them had their phones out and were making frequent posts on their Snapchat stories, cataloging their adventure for all their friends to see. This trek didn't seem unordinary for the two girls to do on their own, as officials had only a few years prior stated that this trail was one of the most safest places in the entire state. Certainly safe enough for two teenagers to get some fresh air. About an hour and a half later, Libby's grandfather arrived to pick the girls up, but they weren't there. After waiting an hour, he called her mother, worrying about where the girls might be. After another hour and a half with no sign from Libby or Abby, the teenagers were officially reported missing to the local police. They searched up and down the trail for hours, finding no sign of the girls, as if they had simply vanished. However, the following morning on February 14th, things took a dark and tragic turn, as the bodies of the adolescents were found in a ditch along the trail, below the Monon High Bridge, for which the trail had been named, sending the community into a collective state of shock. Once the investigation into their deaths started, detectives scrambled to uncover new information to catch the person responsible, and soon they turned to social media to piece together a timeline of events. The post that Libby and Abby had made on Snapchat quickly became important pieces of evidence. One photo that many began to point to was taken around 2 o'clock on the 13th. Depicting Abby standing on the Monon High Bridge. Many people swear that in the background, a man in a blue jacket can be seen hiding behind a tree. The image is incredibly blurry, so many took that claim with a grain of salt. But the idea that the girls may have taken a picture of the man who would be their killer without even realizing it is haunting, to say the least. The first real piece of evidence came when investigators began to look through the girls' phones. It seemed as though Libby had sensed that someone was following them, and had taken out her phone to record him. On February 15th, police released a photo taken from Libby's phone of a man in a blue jacket and a hat covering his eyes, walking on the same bridge that the girls had been taking pictures on just a short time earlier. On top of this, they released audio of a man's voice seeming to say the phrase, "down the hill." While they still had no idea who this man was, at least authorities now had a decent idea of what kind of person they were looking for. Shortly after the audio was uncovered, authorities released a sketch of the suspect, based on the account of a witness who claimed to have seen him on the day of the murder. The sketch depicted an older man with a wide build and a goatee. In a town as small as Delphi, it seemed to many like it should be easy to track this suspect down and bring him to justice. But as the days turned into weeks with no arrest and no new leads, the public began to get restless and impatient, waiting for something to be done about this murderer who is still on the loose. In the small community, the idea that a killer may still be among them was an unsettling thought, to say the least. Frustrated with the lack of any updates from police, some people decided to take matters into their own hands and investigate the crime themselves. Among them was Libby's grandfather, Mike, who spent day and night walking up and down the trail the girls had been killed. While this ultimately proved fruitless, it did did serve to show how desperate the citizens of Delphi had become. Despite pleas from local law enforcement to stay out of the search for the killer, suspicion still ran amok throughout the town. This mystery was slowly tearing a community apart. As time went on, the case went cold, though it didn't stop many from continuing to look. We'll find out more about this after a brief word from our sponsor. With the ever-increasing amount of smartphones that are ditching the headphone jack, it's more important than ever to get a good pair of wireless earbuds, and Raycon is the brand for you. First and foremost, Raycon earbuds start at about half the price of any of the other premium wireless earbuds on the market, and they're just as good. That's why this company, co-founded by Ray J, has celebrities like Snoop Dogg and Cardi B using them non-stop. I'm really glad they sponsored this video because I personally have been using Raycons for the past few months now, and they really are the best earbuds I've ever had. Their latest model, the Everyday E25, is their best one yet. With 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, and a more compact design that gives you a nice, noise-isolating fit. It also comes in new fun colors. Again, they sound just as amazing as any of the other top audio brands you know, and if you click on the link in the description below, you get 15% off your order. Even though police and the FBI alike continued searching for the killer, it took almost 2 years to get any new updates. In April of 2019, police released an updated sketch of the man they suspected to be the killer. This new sketch depicted a much younger man than the previous one, with curly hair and a smaller face. Even though this meant they were still investigating, people remained upset that there had been no new real breaks in the case in all that time. To this very day, we still don't know for certain who killed Libby German and Abby Williams. While authorities continue to investigate the crime, no official arrests have been made for the case. That said, there are a few names that often get thrown around when listing potential suspects. The first of these people is a man named Charles Eldridge. He was arrested in January of 2019 in Union City, Indiana for child molestation and soliciting a minor for sex. The FBI became suspicious of Eldridge when they noticed how similar he looked to the original police sketch of the suspect. However, once the updated sketch was released, the probability of him being the killer became less likely. Next up is Thomas Bruce, a former pastor who was arrested in November of 2018 for murdering a woman and sexually assaulting 2 others at gunpoint in the back of a religious supply store in St. Louis, Missouri. While police in Indiana did look into Bruce as a suspect in the killing of Abby and Libby due to him wearing a cap and a blue jacket similar to the man in Libby's video, it seems as though they couldn't find any substantial evidence to link him to the crime. Finally, there's Paul Eder, a man who on June 22, 2019 kidnapped and assaulted a young woman who had pulled into his driveway after getting a flat tire. He initially offered to help her out, to which she declined and chose instead to drive to a nearby friend's house. Eder then followed her, abducting her from her friend's driveway and taking her back to his home. 5 days after that, Eder was stopped by police for driving a truck that had been reported stolen. This resulted in a 5-hour standoff that ended in Eder killing himself. Eder lived in Tippecanoe County, Indiana, which is a mere 30-minute drive from Delphi, and it's clear that he was capable of some awful things. Many theorize that perhaps Eder was just walking on the Monon High Bridge Trail on that February day in 2017, saw Libby and Abby, and couldn't resist his twisted urges. While no concrete answers are available, at this moment many point to him as a prime suspect, as his death would explain why there have been no new cases of these activities in the area since. The fact still stands that without modern technology and those phone recordings, there would be few leads in this case. In an age before Snapchat, many people had met the same fate as Libby and Abby with no evidence whatsoever to track down the killer. That being said, even with this connectivity, people still are able to get away with these heinous acts. To be clear, this is still an ongoing investigation, so if you have any leads that could help solve these murders, please contact local law enforcement. And until next time, thanks for watching.